Hi, and welcome to this tutorial. Uh, this time we are going to explain how to use the user interface, to create beautiful user interfaces using Apphive. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to give you some tips you can use to create good interfaces using Apphive. Well, the first is to show you how you can add different screens to your application. You have different designs available to add to your application. So if you want to create a page for login, you already have a screen design. And also if you want to add a home for your application, especially for WooCommerce, for e-commerce, like Shopify kind of app. So you have also a design. But if you don't like the designs or you want to create something different, you can have an empty screen. You can start your design from the scratch, or also if you want to modify an existing design, it's important to know these basics to create a responsive application. Okay, the first thing is to keep in mind that not all the screens has the same aspect ratio. So depending on the screen, if it's Android, iOS, or the mobile, you can have different screen sizes. And you need to be sure that the design of your application fits well in all of these screen sizes. So this is why it's important to create a basic layout of your application and to order your screen in different sections depending what you want to display in your screen. So to make that, we are going to use containers. The container is the most basic element to create layouts. You can order the containers in different ways, but basically the screen is a container. No, each page is a container with multiple controls inside it. Okay, so I'm going to add a first container, and you can modify the size of this container here on the style tab, and you can change the width and the height of the container, and also the width on the height can be on pixels or on percentage. If you enable the percentage, so this number, well, this is for the height and this is for the width. So in this case, I want 100% width and, for example, 90% height. Okay, it means that this container would use 90% of the height of the screen. So this is the way to create responsive design, because you have your basic containers in percentage. So it will fit in any screen. And I can have another container with 10% height. Okay. So sometimes, this can be the bottom with the menu at the bottom, or you can move this up for the menu at the top. Okay, you can move the containers and the rest of controls by using the arrows in your keyboard. Once you have your containers, you can divide these containers by using this option on the second tab for configurations. You can split, well, in different percentage the containers on the screen. Okay. Also, you can change the backgrounds of these containers. You can add an image if you want to add an image, or change the color of the containers. Inside these containers, you can continue adding another containers or different elements of your application. But what is important is that this parent container will have inside all the content of your application. And on this way, we can guarantee that the application will be responsive independent of the screen size of the aspect ratio. Okay, so I'm going to add another container. These containers inside the parent containers, the main containers you create to design your layout, this can be in percentage or can be a number of pixels for height or for width. Doesn't matter a lot when you are inside the parent container. For example, I can enable for this parent container the scroll on vertical. Okay, if you enable the scroll, it means that this parent container will be scrollable, and once you enable this in a container, it means that all the elements inside, including the containers inside these parent containers, the height must be always on pixels. Okay, why? Because once the parent container has a scroll, it means that it can be theoretically infinity, no? Doesn't have an end, because you can keep adding always elements. So you can't have a container or another control with a percentage of the height, because the height becomes undefined or infinity, no? Because it can grow as you need it. So once the parent container has a scroll for vertical scroll, all the elements inside needs to be on pixels. So this is going to be disabled. Okay, so you can add the elements inside this parent container. For example, I'm going to add this container here, and I can add another container over here. Okay, I'm going to use different colors to differentiate. Well, you can create a better design. So all these containers has an 8 on pixels. Okay, so what is going to happen with these containers? You can see that you can scroll, and you will see what is the final result once you have these containers. And take in mind that depending on the screen size, sometimes, for example, here you have the container number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, sometimes, well, I'm going to add the numbers for easy recognize it. For example, this container number 1. Number 2. Oops. You can copy and paste the controls by using commands or Control C and Control V, okay, in your keyboard. Okay, so that's it. So Take in mind that sometimes, well, for example, for this screen, I'm watching, well, the number 1, 2, 3, and part of the container 4, but it's not always the same depending of the screen. Sometimes you are going to see only maybe 1, 2, and part of the 3, or you are going to see if the aspect ratio allows it, is you are going to see 1, 2, 3, and 4, no, without a scroll on the screen. So this can change depending on the screen, but at the end you will see all the content. Sometimes you need to scroll, sometimes you don't need to, but the important thing is that once the elements are inside a container that has a percentage for 8, it means that will be adapted to the different screen sizes you have in the different phones. This way you can create, well, different designs. You can change the alignment of these elements by using the align controls in the top. If you want to align to right, center, top, middle, okay, so you can align these elements in your screen, and on this way you can create great designs for your application. Okay, so another thing to take in consideration, if you are creating these designs and sometimes you want to create a list, for example, something like this, you want to create a list with products, but you need that these products will increase because maybe you don't want to have only 2 products on your screen. You want to have a list of multiple products, and you want to keep increasing this size once you have more products. So you can have, I don't know, 10 or 20 or 30 products on your screen. So to make that, you need to have a container which is going to represent a single product. If you are going to create a list, you need to have a container. Okay, so this container is the container that will represent all the list of products. So I need to move inside this container. To copy and paste for easy way. Okay, so now I have the parent container. Okay, so this is the container for the list, and this is another container which represents a single element on the list. Okay, so if I want to increase the age of this parent container once I add more and more products, I can do this later with a function. If you don't know how to create lists, you can watch this video here on the YouTube channel. And in this video, I explain how you can create lists. But to increase automatically the size of this parent container when I keep adding more and more elements, you need to change, you need to enable the auto 8. The auto 8 is here on the style tab. When you select the container and enable the auto 8. If you enable the auto 8, the 8 of this container is not no more defined by this setting. Will be defined depending on the elements inside this container. Is also useful if, for example, you don't know how long will be the text inside this container, or you don't know the age of the list of the elements inside this list. So if you enable auto 8, Once you start adding elements inside it, the age will be increased automatically. Okay, so with these basics about the percentage, the containers, the division of the screen, the use in percentage for height and for width, you can start creating all the designs you need on your screen, basically. Sometimes you will need elements in a specific position on the screen. For example, imagine that you need a screen that overlaps all the other screens. Okay, so to make that, imagine you have a basic, well, a parent container here in 19% 8, and you have another container here for 10% 8. Okay, the same as in the other screen, but I want to have another container at the top of these other two containers. Okay, to make that, I'm going to change for a moment the height of this container, is to have a space to add another container here, and you have the option to change to absolute position. Take in mind that the absolute position will be always relative to the closest parent. So if I enable the position absolute and my parent right now is the page, so this absolute position will be relative to the page. If I enable this, you will see this container. I'm going to change the color. Okay, so this container is not now in absolute position relative to the page. If I change this back to 90% 8, so I'm going to change the color to make this easy to identify. So you have this container 90% 8, this container 10% 8, but you have now this floating container that is using and space without the other containers. Okay, you can change the size and in percentage or in pixels, and well, is relative to the closest parent, which in this case is the page. So imagine that I want to create a screen over this screen. Like an alert, but with my custom design. So I can change to 1%, 100% 8, and 100% width. And for example, I can change to this gray and change the opacity, or to black and change the opacity. Okay, so now this container is over my screen. I can add another container over here, and change the color. Wait a moment. I added this here, but I want inside this parent container. So 100% 8, 100% width, and now we have this container inside. I can add a border radius, and now you have your own your own floating screen. So, and you can customize the design as you need it. Okay, you can change the margins, the text. Okay, and you only need to drag and drop. So you need to be careful when you are dragging the elements to be sure that it's in your screen and not behind it. And what happens if you need to hide this screen and then show it? Okay, so you have the option to control is hidden. If you select the container and enable control is hidden, this control will be hidden and you're not going to see this anymore. What happens when you hide a container or any other control? Well, the way to see this again is go to the controls tree, go to the page. You have these containers here, and you have this container that is hidden, but is always available on the control tree, and you can turn off the control is hidden, so you have your control again. And you can have multiple controls hidden. It depends on the logic of your application. So this way you can create your custom alert screen. Remind that you can send the alert we have here with the basic design. Well, this is the default design from the operating system. But if you do in this way, you can create your custom design of your screen according to your needs. Okay. If this control is hidden, you can change this control to display again by using a function. For example, I'm going to rename this as custom alert. Okay, so I'm going to hide this, and if in my screen I want to display again the custom alert, I only need to use the modify control, and you are going to select the custom alert, which is the name I give to this container, change the property is hidden, and send a false. Okay, if I send a false to a control which is hidden, so will be shown. Okay, you can test this in the web app. I'm going to select this as a primary screen. Go to launch web. If I press this, you will see that now I have my floating screen. So in this way, you can create, well, multiple designs because you have relative positions to their parents, you have absolute positions, and you can change the position of the absolute elements, and also for the relative elements. Just keep in mind that the all the parent elements, well, the parent containers, needs to fit on the screen in percentage. In this way, you are going to be sure that your application will be responsive. So, well, this is the basic for now about the design of your applications. If you want to learn more about designs and, well, different techniques to create better designs using Apphive, give me a comment here on YouTube, and we can use these to create well, better tutorials. And also, we can invite you to these webinars live, so you can ask us whatever you need to create your application. Thank you, and see you the next time.